This is your performance challenge, literary for week number 13. Paragraph. The sun was shining and there was not a cloud in the sky, period. Jerry stood on the dock and looked out at the calm ocean as it came against the dock, period. It was hard to watch as he knew the storm was coming, period. He had already prepared for this storm and hoped it would not be as bad as predicted, period. The reports had not been good as it traveled over its path so far, period. Well, he could hope anyway, period. Jerry walked back to his house and looked at it with a heavy heart, period. He and his wife, Maria, had built this house together, period. So many memories were in this house, period. They had gathered up the things that were important to them and tried to put the other things that they had in a safe place, period. He hoped that the water damage would not be bad, but also hoped that the hurricane would not destroy his lovely home, period. There was not much time left, period. They would soon have to leave, period. Maria was calling, period. We must leave, period. The police were out front, period. There was no more time left, period. Paragraph. Jerry and Maria collected their pets, Harry and Sally, their loved dog and cat, and headed out, period. There was fear and a sense of danger in the air, period. Harry was very restless, which was unlike him, period. Sally was making a lot of noise, which was always normal for her, period. They got in the car and looked back at their home, hopeful that they would soon return to it in the same way it was now, period. Paragraph. They drove slowly down their road, period. Emergency vehicles were everywhere, period. Police were knocking on doors, assuring that the occupants had left, period. The storm was coming and they wanted everyone out safely, period. They stopped to check on Mr. and Mrs. Brown to make sure they had left, period. To their surprise, the Browns were still at home and had done nothing to prepare to leave, period. The elderly couple told Maria that they had nowhere to go, so they planned to sit the storm out, period. Maria was upset and asked Jerry if they could make room for the couple in their car so that they would be safe, period. Jerry looked at the car and gave it some thought, period. Neither Jerry nor Maria was willing to leave their pets behind, so they had to think of something else they could do, period. Paragraph. Mr. Brown came out to the car where Jerry and Maria were standing, period. He told them that he and his wife had a van in the garage, but it was too big for them to drive, period. He told them he would be happy to lend it to them so they could all travel together, period. Jerry was dismayed, but asked if he could see the van, period. Mr. Brown opened the garage, period, and there sat an almost new van, period. He asked Mr. Brown if it was registered and insured and safe to drive, period. Mr. Brown told him that it was, period. Jerry did not want to leave his car behind, so they loaded most of the belongings into his car and Maria drove the van, period. It was getting late when they finally left, but they felt better that the elderly couple was with them and would be safe, period. Paragraph. As they began to leave, everything was very still, period. There was no breeze and not a bird or small animal sound, period. The sky had become dark and scary looking, period. Jerry and Maria stayed close together so they would arrive at their daughter's house at the same time, period. Their daughter Ellen was anxious for them to arrive, period. She had already called asking where they were, and Maria told her that they had stopped to help the Browns, period. As they got on the main highway, it began to rain, period. Jerry was worried about Maria, so he pulled to the side of the road to check on her, period. Paragraph. Mr. and Mrs. Brown had prepared some coffee and sandwiches before they began their trip, and they offered some to Jerry, period. He said he wanted to press on, but would enjoy it later in the trip, period. Maria told him that she was doing fine, and they decided to keep both their cell phones on so they could be in constant contact should something happen, period. Jerry returned to his car and off they went, period. Paragraph. They had traveled for about 45 minutes when the rain started to fall very hard, period. Jerry had his windshield wipers going as fast as possible, period. He could barely see the road, period. He asked Maria if she was having trouble seeing, and she told him that she was, period. As they were speaking, the wind started to pick up and was pushing against the car, period. Suddenly the van started to sway and swerve off the road, period. Jerry yelled at his wife, and all he heard were screams, period. There were no other vehicles on the road, period. Jerry pulled to the side of the road and stopped, period. He ran from the car and could not see the van, period. The wind was so strong that it nearly knocked him over, period. He fell on the side of the road and yelled for Maria, period. He was shocked and upset, period. He walked back a short distance and still could not see the van, period. He was becoming frantic, period. He did not know whether to continue to look for the van or return to his car and try to reach her on the cell phone, period. Paragraph. He returned to the car, and when he finally got there, he heard his wife yelling to him, period. He asked if she and the Browns were injured, period. She told him they were all fine, period. She had briefly lost control of the van, but had gotten it back on the road and was trying to find him, period. paragraph. It was about a half hour later when Jerry finally saw Maria approaching, period. The rain was beginning to die down, comma, but the wind was still very strong, period. Jerry was so happy to finally see his wife, period, paragraph. They got back on the road, comma, and about an hour later they all safely arrived at Ellen's house, period. They stayed with her for 3 days, comma, and then they were allowed to go back home, period. When they got back home, comma, they saw that the home of the elderly couple was not harmed, and neither was theirs, period. He was thankful and happy that the homes had been spared, period, paragraph.